After a few hours with Breakpoint's Immersive Mode, I have to say there are definitely some big improvements, but also noticeable limitations. Let's talk about what works and doesn't work, and what settings you can change to get the game closer to the Ghost Recon you probably want. Immersive is really more of a series of settings than a game overhaul. If you're looking for huge structural changes to Breakpoint, there is some good progress here, like getting rid of tiered loot and eliminating other random players from the social spaces. But at the same time, Immersive further highlights problems that have been there from the start, particularly with bad enemy behavior. Even when you're doing your best to play realistically, enemies often just won't play along, and there isn't a sweet spot at any difficulty setting. At the default end of Immersive Mode, you'll still be mowing through bases like a one-man army. And at the hardest settings, you'll die horribly, particularly in sections where the game inexplicably surrounds you with enemies right after a cutscene. You'll also still see enemy groups not quite know how to handle you when you're inside of buildings, or simply not respond when their buddies get shot right next to them. Maybe Immersive Mode just isn't the right word for this. The game's interrogation mechanic, for example, really breaks your immersion by letting you shoot a bad guy multiple times before picking them back up and talking to them like nothing happened. This is more of a robust hard mode for Breakpoint. All that being said, if you use the new mechanics in the open world, especially where you can be stealthy, it can really be enjoyable. Everything you need to get the most out of Immersive Mode is in the custom settings. The first thing to do is switch to using a single primary weapon. It's honestly one of my favorite toggles because not only does it look more realistic, but it forces you to choose a role, and that counts if you're playing alone or with friends. It makes you, for example, decide if you're a stealthy sniper or a hard-charging assaulter. If you don't have a long-range gun, suddenly enemy snipers become way more dangerous. Or if you just took a sniper rifle, all you're gonna have for close combat is a pistol. One quick note, when you turn on Immersive Mode, make sure you have the gun you want equipped, because it appears to get rid of your other weapons that aren't blueprints while the mode is active. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to the interface menu and turn off anything that would pull you out of the world, like damage indicators and crosshairs. Breakpoint's at its strongest when you're navigating just using your eyes and ears. Some indicators are essential, like objective markers, but they turn on and off on the fly. On that note, make iron sights the default. None of that over-the-shoulder aiming shenanigans.
Deep Blue, I don't know what you're doing on Aroa, but I'm here to help.
I'd take your help any day.
Next, crank up the difficulty. Despite its name, Immersive Mode's default settings still leave you way too powerful. Multiple bad guys can get the drop on you, fire first, and you'll still have time to react, heal, and win. Turn enemy difficulty to advanced and tactical difficulty to elite. The two settings sound similar, but enemy difficulty impacts enemy behavior, and tactical difficulty changes the way your character experiences the world, such as reducing the number of bandages you can carry, increasing your chance of injury, draining your stamina more quickly, turning off health regeneration, and causing you to throw away any leftover ammo that you still have in your magazine when you reload. Turning up the difficulty definitely takes Breakpoint much closer to the survival game originally pitched. As mentioned above, don't use the extreme setting for enemies because the game has missions that purposely surround you and it just doesn't work. Now that you're playing a much harder game, there's a few things to understand. Bivouacs suddenly have a lot more meaning, for example. They are now one of the only places that you can swap weapons, and only to blueprints that you own, which makes chasing blueprints that much more important. If you run out of ammo and aren't near one, you'll have to scavenge weapons off dead enemy soldiers, which is new and actually pretty cool. There's a very handy comparison menu that pops up when you're thinking about making the switch. You may also want to prepare for battles in a way that you haven't had to before, using crafting menus. Make sure to farm resources and keep your canteen topped off with fresh water because your stamina will thank you. If there's one thing Immersive Mode does do really well, it's that it gets you to slow down and exist in the world. Not constantly having to chase loot and upgrades makes everything just a lot more enjoyable. You'll get the most out of the new harder settings if you still limit yourself a bit and do things like wander the open world, hit side missions, do investigations, but stay away from anything that channels you into places where the enemy might not agree to be immersive with you.
This whole operation goes to shit if we're seen together.
Let us know in the comments below if you've tried the new setting, and how they make or don't make Breakpoint into the game that you want. For more coverage of shooters, including Doom and Call of Duty Warzone, head over to GameSpot. Thanks for watching.
All good here. I think we're clear. Yeah, that's what they want us to think. Keep your eyes open.